Good morning, students. Today we are going to start with a very new chapter of civics, that is chapter 9, Struggles for Equality. As it is a last chapter of your book, so basically it is a chapter which is a summarization of what we have studied in this book from the beginning. Okay, the name of the chapter is Struggles for Equality. So you can understand by the name also that this chapter is related to all the inequalities that are present in the society and how people fought against those inequalities. So let's begin. In this book, you have read about people like Kanta, the Ansaris, Melani, and Swapna. In this book only, you have studied the story of Kanta, Ansaris, Melani, and Swapna in different chapters. The thread that connects all of these lives is that they have been treated unequally. Now, one thing is common in between all those people is that they have suffered from inequalities that are present in the society. History is full of examples of persons who have come together to fight against inequality and for issues of justice. Our history is full of those people who came together so that they can fight against these inequalities and they can bring justice to the particular people. Okay. Do you recall the story of Rosa Parks in chapter 1? Do you remember the story of Rosa Parks in chapter 1? In chapter 1, we have studied the story of Rosa Parks. So, do you remember that story? Basically, what Rosa Parks did, she stood for those people who were suffering from color discrimination. Okay, so she stand for those people and fought against that discrimination. In chapter 5, uh, do you remember the photo essay on the women's movement? Now in chapter 5 you have studied a photo essay that is related to women's movement. Women were fighting for their rights in the society. Okay, in this chapter you will learn about some of the ways in which people have struggled against inequality. Now in this chapter only we are going to study that how people fought for the inequalities that are present in the society. As you have already read in this book, the Indian Constitution recognizes all Indians as equal before the law and states that no person can be discriminated against because of their religion, sex, caste, or whether they are rich or poor. So basically in this book only we have also studied this thing, that our Indian Constitution. Now first is, what is Constitution? Constitution is basically the rules and regulation that are made for the country, and the people who live in that country used to follow those rules and regulations. Okay, so in India the Indian Constitution states that each and every people is equal before the law. There should be no discrimination on the basis of their religion, sex, color, caste, whether he or she is poor or rich. There should be no discrimination on the basis of these things. Okay, all adults in India have the equal right to vote. Now in India, all the adults, who are adults, adults are basically who are of 18 or above 18, they are considered as adults. Okay, so all the adults have equal right to vote. So basically in India people have political right also. So they, what they can do, they can go and give vote uh, to the candidate whom they want to be selected as their representative. Okay, so all adults in India have the equal right to vote during elections, and this power over the ballot box has been used by people to elect or replace their representative. Now the meaning of power over ballot box. Okay, the meaning of this word power over ballot box means the way people get the same equal right to vote. Okay, so what they use, people used to write, so all the people of India use this right so that they can give vote to particular person whom they want to give vote, and if they want to replace any representative they can do that also. Okay, moving further, but this feeling of equality that the ballot box provides, because the vote of one person is as good as that of another, does not extend to most people's life. So, the feeling of equality which the Indian Constitution used to provide is that if a person vote is good as that of another, it doesn't make any kind of difference in somebody, in some person's life. Okay, so basically it is saying that if a poor is also giving a vote, and if a rich person is also giving a vote, but the suffering but the suffering that a poor people is going through, it can't change. Okay, so as you have read, the increasing privatization of health services and the neglect of government hospitals have made it difficult for most poor people like Kanta, Hakim Sheikh, and Aman to get good quality health care. So it is saying that, as you have read, increasing privatization of health services. If the health services is getting increasing day by day, it is getting better day by day, but the private hospitals are getting good day by day, not the public hospital. And because of that, public hospitals are getting neglected, or you can say that people are started ignoring that hospital, and they are giving their preference to private hospitals mostly. So it is making difficult for the poor people so that they can go to the hospital and get a proper healthcare system, okay, get the proper treatment. Because in government hospital there is no such development, and in private hospital there are too much of development, but the poor people are not able to go to the private hospital because of the cost of the medicines and the doctor's fees. They are not able to pay that fees, so they are not able to go to the private hospital, and that's why they are went to the public hospital, and where the facilities are not too good, not too up to mark. And this is the reason that poor people are suffering from all the healthcare, okay. So as we have studied about the story like Kanta, Hakim Sheikh and Aman, they were not able to get the quality of healthcare or quality of treatment. These people do not have the resources to afford expensive private health services. So these people don't have that much of money that so that they can go to the private healthcare hospital and they can get the proper treatment. They don't have that much of money. That's why they are suffering from this kind of inequalities. Similarly, the man who sells juice does not have the resources to compete with all the major companies who sell branded drinks, though expensive advertising. Okay, so now there is another example, that is, if a person who is selling juice, he don't have that much of money that he can compete with all the branded companies, and who used to give their who used to give advertisement in the newspaper or in the news, okay. So he cannot afford that much of price, or that he cannot do that much of things, so that he is selling the juice in a stall, and a company that is selling branded drinks, they are just selling it by doing advertisement. Sapna does not have sufficient resources to grow cotton, and so has to take a loan from the trader to grow her crop. Now, we have also studied the story of Sapna in the previous chapter only, that what she did, she don't have that much of money so that she can grow cotton crops. She For that she has to went to a trader, and there she has to and from him she has to borrow money, okay. This forces her to sell her cotton at a lower price, and this is the reason that she was forced to give all her cotton to the trader in a very low price. Melanie, like the millions of domestic workers across the country, is forced to endure the insults and hardship of working as a domestic help because she has no resources to set up something on her own. Now we have also studied the story of Melanie, and who was a Melanie. Melanie was a domestic worker, okay. Domestic worker means the people who used to work at house or in somebody's house, okay. So they are domestic workers. So Melanie were forced to do that work, and she was forced to bear all the insults and all the hardships so that she can earn. And she is not that much of a rich person, so she was not able to set up her own business on something she can do in her on her own. So that's why she was forced to become a domestic worker, and she has to bear all the insults during the work. Poverty and the lack of resources continue to be a key reason why so many people lives in India are highly unequal. So basically, what is the reason of being unequal in the India is first poverty. Okay, first is poverty, and second is lack of resources. Lack of resources, okay. So basically, these are the two reasons, that first is poverty, second is lack of resources, that people are being treated as unequal in India. On the other hand, the Ansaris were discriminated against not because they don't did not have the resources. In fact, despite having the money to pay the required rent, they were not able to find an apartment for over a month. Okay, so now there is another story of Ansaris. Why the Ansaris were discriminated? They were discriminated on the basis of their religion. They were not discriminated against that they are poor, or they don't have money, or they are lacking some kind of resources. No, there was another reason, that they were not able to find an apartment for over a they were not able to find an apartment, or they were not able to find a house on rent for over a month. People were reluctant to lease them an apartment because of their religion. Now people were not willing, reluctant means unwilling, okay, they were not willing to give their apartment on rent to those people, to Ansari, because of their religion. Similarly, the main reason that the teacher forced Om Prakash Valmiki to sweep the school yard was because he was Dalit. Now, we have also studied the story of Om Prakash Valmiki, and in that story, what was the story is, it was about that the teacher forced Om Prakash Valmiki to sweep the floor because he was Dalit. Dalit is the low caste people, okay, they are known as Dalit. You have also read that the work women do is often considered of less value than that done by the men. We have also studied that all the work that women used to do is not considered as much as compared to the work done by men. All of these persons are discriminated against primarily because of their social and cultural background, as well as because they are women. So basically people also get discriminated on the basis of their social or their cultural background, okay. Social background in the sense that all the low caste people or high caste people, these are social background, and cultural background means the religion they used to belong to. And the another reason is because they are women, they are suffering from this discrimination on the basis of person's religion, caste and sex is another significant factor for why people are treated unequally in India. So people who are treated unequally in India is the biggest reason is that there is a discrimination on the basis of religion, on the basis of caste, and on the basis of sex. So there is the reason, but we have studied the five reasons. First, we studied about poverty. Because of poverty, people are suffering from inequality. Second, the lack of resources, okay, those people who are lacking in resources, they are also treated as unequal. Thirdly, we have studied that discrimination on the basis of religion, caste and sex, people are also suffering from inequalities because of that, okay. Let's move further. Often, poverty and lack of dignity and respect for certain communities and groups come together in such powerful ways that it is difficult to identify where one aspect of inequality ends and the other begins. Now, poverty and lack of dignity. Dignity means your self respect, okay? And respect for certain communities and groups come together in such powerful ways. Poverty and lack of dignity, lack of respect, lack of self respect, and respect for other communities. Other community means other group of people. These are the things that it has come together in a very powerful way that nobody is able to understand that where one inequality started and where the another one is getting finished, okay. As you have read, Dalit, Adivasi, and Muslim girls drop out of school in large numbers. We have also studied in the previous earlier chapters that Dalit, Adivasi, and Muslim girls were drop out of school. They means they have to leave the school. This is a combined outcome of poverty, social discrimination, and lack of good quality school facilities for these communities. So basically, what are the reasons that the students have to leave the school? First is poverty. Second was the social discrimination, and third was the school facilities were not up to the mark so that they can go to school and get their valuable education, okay. So now we are going to start with the next topic, that is struggles for equality. Okay, so we are going to start with a new topic, that is struggles for equality. Now, what kind of struggles that are made for equality we are going to study here. Throughout the world, in every community, village, city, and town, you will find that there are some people who are known and respected because of their fight for equality. So now they are saying that in different community or village or city and town, there are some group of people who used to come together and fight for all those inequalities that are present in the society. These people may have stood up against an act of discrimination that they faced or which they witnessed. And some of the people, you can say that some are those who fight against discrimination which they faced or which they witnessed. Which they faced or means which they suffered from, or which they have saw that these kind of discrimination is going on. So people came together for that also. So best example for this is, we have studied a story of Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. What he is suffering from, he was suffering from a caste discrimination, because and he was forced to sweep the floor because he was belong to Dalit. Dalit means small caste. Okay, so we have studied that how he struggled for all his rights, and he also fought, not just fought for himself, he fought for all the community of Dalit people, he fought for them also. So this is the best example of this, that the person who came up against discrimination. Okay, or they may be well respected because they treat all person with dignity and are therefore trusted and called upon to resolve issues in the community. Or maybe these peoples are well respected. People used to respect those people because they have treated all persons equally and with dignity. They have treated them equally, and plus they have given the respect which they are supposed to get. Okay, so they are the trusted people, and they used to come call these people to resolve some problems. If there is something, is there something that is inappropriate in the community, these people used to be call them, and they used to solve the problems. Often some of these persons become more widely recognized because they have the support or represent large number of people who have united to address a particular issue of inequality. So there is another reason that these persons are getting widely respected. Okay, so these people are basically get support from different kinds of people whom they have already fight for those people. They supported the those respected people, and that is why they are getting much more popular in these times. In India, there are several struggles in which people have come together to fight for issues that they believe are important. In India, there are also some kind of issues where people used to come together in front of the society, and they fought for those things which they really feel that this is important and we have to fight for this thing. In chapter 5, you read about the methods used by the women's movement to raise issues of inequality. So in chapter 5 we also read that it was basically, the chapter was considered with women's movement only. So how women fought for their inequalities, how women fought for their equalities that they want in the society, their position, for their position they fought in the they want a position in the society, and they fought for that also. So in chapter 5 we have studied about that. The Tava Matsya Sangha in Madhya Pradesh is another example of people coming together to fight for an issue. So, like that only, now there is another group that is known as Tava Matsya Sangha, that is in Madhya Pradesh. In that also, people come together to fight for an issue. There was a problem, and the people came together to fight for that. There are many such struggles, such as those among Bedi workers, fisher folk, agriculture laborers, slum dwellers, and each group is struggling for justice in its own way. There are many more struggles like Bedi workers, fisher folk, agricultural laborers, slum dwellers, and there are many more struggles that are coming on the way. There are also many attempts to form cooperatives or other collective ways by which people can have more control over resources. Now, there are also some cooperatives are getting made. Cooperatives is what we have also studied cooperative word in the previous chapter, that was weavers cooperative. So remember, cooperative, basically cooperative means what? Cooperative means when people used to work in a group, the same interest of people used to work in a group, that is known as cooperatives. So okay, so basically it is saying that many people started making their cooperatives or making a group of same interest so that they can work together, and in the same sense, and each and every person can get equal benefit also, so they are started making cooperatives. So let's start with the story of Tava Matsya Sangha. What was the issue that was for that this organization was made, and how people fought against that issues? Okay, so let's begin. When dams are built or forest areas declared sanctuaries for animals, thousands of people are displaced. When dams are built, what is dam? Dam is basically where water is. So basically, what are dams? Dams are where water is reserved. Okay, we make reservoirs type, and it in that the water is getting reserved, that is known as dams. So when dams were built and forests were declared as sanctuaries for animals, many people has to leave their places and they have to move in some other place. Whole villages are uprooted and people are forced to go and build new homes, start new lives elsewhere. So many villages were uprooted. Uprooted means many villages were shifted from one place to another. Okay, and people started building their new house. They have to start living in a very new way. Okay, they started their new lives and they started with the fresh thing. Most of these people are poor, and many of these people were poor. In urban areas too, bastis in which poor people live are often uprooted. In urban areas, there is a area, particular area where poor people used to live, and that is known as bastis. Okay, these bastis were also uprooted. Uprooted means that they have to leave those areas and they move further. Some of them are relocated to areas outside the city, and most of the people were forced to make their house at the end of the society, or outside the society, or outside the city. Their work as well as their children's schooling is severely disrupted because of the distance. Their work as well as their children's schooling is severely disrupted because of the distance from the outskirts of the city to these locations. So because they have to shift it from the area that is far away from city, so their work, their children's schooling was also getting disrupted. Disrupted means getting disturbed. Okay, because they were not able to send their children to school because school was getting too far from their area. They were not able to work because the working areas was also very far from that particular area where they shifted. This displacement of people and communities is a problem that has become quite widespread, and this was the displacement problem that was spreading everywhere, and it is getting day by day difficult for the people so that to move from one place to another. People usually come together to fight against this. Now people were all came together so that they can fight against such thing. There are several organizations across the country fighting for the rights of the displaced. Now there are some kind of organizations were made so that they can fight against those displacement. Displacement means that people have to shift from one place to another, that is called displaced. Okay, when people have to leave one place and they have to shift to another. In this chapter, we will read about the Tava Matsya Sangh, a federation of fisher workers cooperatives. Now, in this chapter, we are going to study about the organization that is Tava Matsya Sangha, and what is the federation is about? It is a federation of fish workers. Okay, so basically, who are the people who are fighting here is fish workers. Okay, fighting for the rights of the displaced forest dwellers. They were fighting against for those people, those forest dwellers. Forest dwellers means those people who live in forest. Okay, they were fighting for the people who lived in forest. And forest is where forest of Satpura forest in Madhya Pradesh. Okay, forest dwellers who used to live in Satpura forest in Madhya Pradesh. There was a forest in Madhya Pradesh, forest name is Satpura forest, and the people who used to live in that forest, the fisher workers were fighting for those people. Originating in the Mahadio hills of Chindwara district, the Tawa flows through Betul before joining the Narmada in Hoshangabad. Okay, so it is originating in the Mahido hills of Chindwara. So basically, the Tawa is a river. Okay, it is originate from Mahadio hills of Chindwara district, and it flows from Bitol. Okay, it is flows through Bitol before joining it in Narmada in Hoshangabad. So basically it originates from Mahadev Hills and it flows between Betul and it before joining in Narmada Hoshangabad. It is known as that river is known as Tawa. The Tawa Dam began to build in 1958 and was completed in 1978. So the Tawa Dam was started beginning at 1958. So the dam was started building on in 1958 and it was completed in 1978. It submerged large areas of forest and agricultural land, and because of this dam it covered a large area of forest, and it also and it also affect the agricultural land of their particular area. The forest dwellers were left with nothing. The forest dwellers yani means that the people who live in forest, they were left with nothing, they don't have anything. Some of the displaced people settle around the reservoir. Some of the people which are displaced means which they those people who have to leave their particular areas, they started living in around reservoir. Reservoir means where the water is used to preserve, that is known as reservoir. Okay, people started living near any kind of reservoirs, and apart from their meager farms, found a livelihood in fishing. So because now they don't have any agricultural land, they are not able to do farming, so they started doing what, they started doing fishing. Okay, they have started a new livelihood, a new work, a new occupation, and that is fishing. They earned very little, and by doing fishing they used to earn very little, but they started something so that they can earn something, and their livelihood will be go on smoothly. Now we are going to study a story of a dam which is built uh, we are going to study a story of a dam which is built in Uttarakhand, and the dam name is Tihri Dam. A dam is built across a river at sites where one can collect a lot of water. Now, where a dam is used to build, dam is used to build at that area of river where a lot of water can be collected. Okay, this forms a reservoir, and as the water collects, it submerges vast areas of land, and this is known as reservoir. And when the water is collected in large amount, so the areas that are near those reservoirs, they were also submerged. This is because the wall of the dam across the river is high, and the water spreads over a large area, and this is why means the land is getting submerged, because the wall of the dam is very high and the water should spread over a large area. This is a photo of the submergence caused by the Tihri Dam in Uttarakhand. Now there is a photo which shows that there is a submersion of the village in Tihri Dam in Uttarakhand. Where is Tihri Dam? Tihri Dam is in Uttarakhand. The old Tihri town and 100 villages, some totally or some partially, were submerged by this dam. Now in old Tihri town, there were approximately 100 villages. Okay, approximately there were 100. In Old Tehri town, there were approximately 100 villages, and some were totally submerged or some were partially. Partially means some part of that area is secure, but some part is also submerged in that. Nearly 1 lakh people were displaced. And how many people were displaced from that area? 1 lakh people were displaced from that particular area. Moving further, in 1994, the government gave the rights for fishing in the Tawa Reservoir to private contractors. In 1994, what the government did? Government gave the rights for fishing to the private contractors. These contractors drove the local people away and got cheap labor from outside. Now, what these private contractors did? They drove away. Drove away means they neglected the local people, and they got their own laborers in cheap rate from outside. And what they did, the contractor began to threaten the villagers who did not want to leave by bringing in hodlums. The villagers stood united and decided that it was time to set up an organization and do something to protect their rights. Now the contractors started threatening the villagers, and the contractors were want that these villagers should move out from this areas, and they can grab the whole area. They want the contractor started threatening the villages so that they can leave the house, they can leave the particular area, and the contractor can grab all the areas. Okay, so they started threatening them, but at that moment the villagers start understand that now they have to stand united, and they have to fight against this inequality. Now they have to set up an organization and fight for their rights. Okay, the newly formed Tawa Matsya Sangha organized rallies and a chakka jam demanding their right to continue fishing. Now Tawa Matsya Sangha organization is being made, and they started organizing rallies, they started doing chakka jam so that they can fulfill their demand. And their demand was that they want to continue fishing in the Tava River. In response to their protest, the government created a committee in response to their protest. Now they protested so much that the government was forced to take any kind of step. So what the government did, they create a committee. Okay, the government created a committee against this issue. The committee recommended that fishing rights be granted to the villagers for their livelihood. The committee recommended, now committee said that fishing rights should be given to the villagers only, so that they can earn their livelihood. In 1996, the Madhya Pradesh government decided to give to the people displaced by the Tawa Dam the fishing rights for the reservoir. And in 1996, Madhya Pradesh government decided that the fishing right should be given to the people who live near the Tawa Dam. Okay, a 5-year lease agreement was signed 2 months later, and a 5-year lease agreement was made 2 months later. On January 2nd, 1997, people from 33 villages of Tawa started the new year with the first catch, and on January 2nd, 1997, 33 villages of Tawa started their new year when they with their first catch. First catch means when they first did their fishing on January 2nd. Okay, so they began their new year with that. With the TMS taking over, the fish workers were able to increase their earnings substantially. Now, as the TMS, as the organization was made, fisher workers were able to increase their earnings substantially, means their earning was getting good day by day. This was because they set up the cooperative which would buy the catch from them at a fair price. And why this was happened, that the fisher workers were able to get a good amount of money, because what they did, they make a cooperative, or they make a organization who used to buy their fish in a very fair price or in a very good price. The cooperative would then arrange to transport and sell this in market where they would get a good price. Now the what the cooperative used to do, cooperative used to arrange a transport and sell this fish in the market, and they can get a good price. They have now begun to earn 3 times more than they earned earlier. Now the people who used to live in the village near the Tawa Dam, they started earning much more better from what they used to earn earlier. The TMS has also begun giving the fish workers loan for repair and the buying of new nets. The TMS started giving loan to the fish workers so that they can repair their nets, or they can buy a new net if they want to. By managing to earn a higher wage as well as preserving the fish in the reservoir, the TMS has shown that when people's organization get their rights to livelihood, they can be good managers. So basically what we have seen from this story, from the Tawa Matya organization, we have studied that if people used to make their organization, so they can also have a good livelihood, plus they can become a good manager, they can able to handle their life in a very particular way or in a very good manner. Okay, so moving further, now this is a adaptation of song written for Right to Information, that was written by Vinay Mahajan. Okay, during his campaign, he wrote this song, and it is just a small adaptation of that song. So let's begin. The right to know. My dreams have the right to know why for centuries they have been breaking. Why don't they ever come true? My hands have the right to know why do they remain without work all along? Why do they have nothing to do? My feet have the right to know why from village to village they walk on their own. Why are there no sign of a bus yet? My hunger has the right to know why grain rots in godowns while I don't even get a fistful of rice. My old mother has the right to know why are there no medicines, needles, dispensaries or bandages. My children have the right to know why do they labor day and night, why is there no school in sight. So basically this song is about right to know, right to information. So people has that right that they can ask government that why these things are happening in the society, why inequalities are there in the society, why they are not taking any kind of steps for these inequalities. So basically what Vinay Mahajan is saying with his campaign, with this song, that we have also a right to know what is going in the society, why there is such kind of things happening in the society. Okay, now the last topic is the Indian Constitution as a living document. So what is the last topic is that our Indian Constitution is a living document. Now what is the meaning of living document? Living document means that our constitution is that type of constitution that we can change this document and we can amend it again. Okay, we can change if there is something which is not good, or we want to change it in different way, we want to modify it, we can do that and we can amend it again. Okay, so that's why Indian Constitution is known as a living document. The foundation of all movements for justice and the inspiration for all the poetry and songs are equality, is the recognition that all people are equal. So the foundation of all movements, so basically why the movement is going on for justice and or for any kind of inspiration or the songs or the poetry, everything that is made is basically for the thing that people want to treat themselves as equal. There should be no discrimination. As you know, the Indian Constitution recognizes the equality of all persons. So as we also know that Indian Constitution gave emphasis on equality of all people. So basically there is a fundamental right, that fundamental right also in Indian Constitution, and the fundamental right is right to equality. So basically our constitution has given emphasizes for that people should treat equal. Movements and struggles for equality in India continuously refer to the Indian Constitution to make their point about equality and justice for all. So all the movements, all the struggles that were happening in India, it was basically for the government so that they can emphasize on the equalities, to change some kind of things in the constitution or make something equal for the each and every person. The fisher workers in the Tava Matsya Sangh hope that the provisions of the constitution will become a reality through their participation in this movement. So the fisher worker in Tava Matsya Sangh, they only hope by doing the struggle, they only hope that the constitution will take their things and he will the constitution will change something in their document. Okay, by constantly referring to the constitution, they use it as a living document, and by constantly referring to the constitution, they were time and again was saying about constitution only. They are saying that constitution is a living document, that is something that has real meaning in our lives. Okay, so basically document means, living document means that is something that is very important, have real meaning in our lives. In a democracy, there are always communities and individuals trying to expand the idea of democracy and push for a greater recognition of equality on existing as well as new issues. So in basically in democracy, there are people who used to expand the ideas of democracy so that equality can be present in the society and there should be no issues regarding inequalities. Okay, moving further, issues of equality are central to a democracy. So issues that are related to equalities are a central of democracy. It is a basis of democracy. In this book we have tried to highlight issues that pose a challenge to this idea of equality in a democracy. So in this book only we have studied that how inequalities are present in the society and how it is included in our democracy, and it became a challenge for our democracy so that they can change something in the society. These, as you have read, include the privatization of health services in the country, the increasing control that uh, these, as you have read, first we have studied about the privatization of health services. Okay, the development in health services. Then we have studied the increasing control that business house exert on the media, that how media used, how the big businessmen or the rich businessmen used to have their control on media. The low value given to women, the value that is given to the women work is not there, and the women's respect is also very low, and the low earning made by small farmers, and the small farmers who are earning very small so that they can grow cotton. Okay, so basically we have what we have studied in in this book. We have studied that how the privatization is holding in health services. Okay, we have studied that the private healthcare system is getting day by day good, but at the public facilities were getting day by day bad. Okay, then we studied that how the big businessmen or rich powerful people used to hold media, has their control over media. Then we studied that the work of women, and the women used to treat very badly, or they used to say that the work of women is not much of not that much of important. Okay, then we studied that the small farmers who used to grow cotton, their earnings are very low. These issues substantially affect poor and marginalized communities and therefore concern economic and social equality in the country. And because of these issues, all the poor people and marginalized communities means all the low caste people or the poor people, they were suffering from these things, and that is why economic and social equality in the country is most important. Okay, economic means the money equality, that the earnings should be equal, and the social equality means the social status of the people. This is the core of the struggle for equality in a democracy, and this is the basis, that this is the most important aim of a democracy, that if a country should be democratic, there should be no discrimination. And this is the core thing that the people used to fight for. This people has to fight for these equalities. The dignity and self-respect of each person and the community can only be realized if they have adequate resources to support and nurture their families, and if they are not discriminated against anything. Okay, so the basically the dignity, the self-respect of a person or any community can only be realized if there will be no discrimination, there is nothing that is against any kind of thing, so there should be no discrimination on the basis of anything. Then only the dignity and the self respect of a person or a particular community is only be realized by these things only. So with this the chapter is end. So this chapter is related to only the struggles that were made in the society by the people, or which we have studied in the previous chapters also. So I hope you have understood this chapter. With this I will end the class. Thank you so much, students.